This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Wahid Invest, revolutionizing halal investments.
Good morning and good evening, everybody listening to this podcast. Welcome to your car, your train journey, your gym session, or maybe you're just watching and listening at home. Do you know who does that with podcasts? Listens to them at home, but maybe you are that person. This episode is brought to you by Wahid Invest. Wahid is revolutionizing halal investing. What is Wahid? Wahid is an online platform, guys, where you can invest your money in a halal way. Why is it halal? What does this even mean? Well, instead of putting your money into a savings account where it's accumulating interest, you can actually put your money into this online platform called Wahid, and it still accumulates wealth, inshallah, but without interest. What it does is it invests your money into halal companies, so companies that don't deal with riba or gambling or alcohol or anything like that, and also by investing into stocks and commodities. And then Bob's your uncle. So they do all the difficult work for you. You just upload your money, and you don't have to find halal companies to invest it into or anything like that. They just do it all for you. So that's Wahid. And you can use it for many reasons. You can use it for savings, so put your money aside so that it's not accessible to you, or it's not in a savings account accumulating interest. Or you can do it for investment, and then have a long form investment where you can use it as potentially a retirement fund. There's loads of options, guys. Wahid have helped people all across the United States invest their money into halal portfolios, and now they've come to the UK. They're here. You can sign up ASAP, get your account approved instantly, and you can start with as little as investing £100. That's how you do it. Just head over to freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. That's freshlygrounded.com/WAHED. Make sure you guys use that link, because that's how they can track that you guys are coming from Freshly Grounded. That helps us too. Wahid Invest, revolutionizing halal investing. Guys, this episode of the podcast is with my uncle. Yeah. My uncle, yeah. Oh, ow, I just hurt my hand. This episode of the podcast is with my uncle. He is my mum's oldest brother, and he has had a crazy year. What I would recommend is that you watch Omar's episodes with my uncle. So he shot 2 episodes of the podcast with him. I'd watch both of them if I were you, because the one was filmed last year, or just before last year, just before his wife sadly passed away, which was a surprise for all of us. It wasn't expected. It was not expected. And she left behind 3 amazing children, my cousins, and she was his world. I've never seen a couple. They were literally couple goals, and it was a very, very sad time. And then he just shot the 2nd episode with Omar about a year later, so just now, today or yesterday, today. And those episodes are worth listening to, because that's where he really speaks about all of that journey, right? And so just go to YouTube and search Omar Chowdhury and find his podcast. It's called The Ozone Podcast, and listen to both of those episodes. Because in this episode, I don't want him to constantly repeat himself, and you guys can hear it at Omar's. And also, I don't want to. That's so emotionally draining talking about such difficult events. But he also has some amazing and inspirational things to say. He started his career. He got his degree, and then after that he's done so many jobs, from mini cabbing to stacking shelves. And the one thing I remember is him telling him and his wife, that they used to look under the sofa for spare coins so they could pay for food for their children or pay for rent. And he managed to work his way up to work for the largest oil company in the world, and now he's on a huge salary, and he's very financially well off, and it's because of his hard work. And he shares his tips, he shares money management skills, and a lot of stuff for our generation, for us to learn from someone in the older generation who has been where we have been, or where we are, and has made it to what we would consider like financial goals. So He works for a large company in Saudi Arabia. And guys, it doesn't really need any further introduction other than to say, listen to the episode. It's a good one. And some of you might be wondering, where's Sam? He was here on the last episode, now he's gone. He did mention at the beginning of that episode that he doesn't know when he's coming back, but he does intend to come back. So just be a bit patient, inshallah, and he should be back. All right, guys, without any further ado, this is episode, let's see what episode it is. I'm going to say 87, and I don't think I'm wrong, but I'm going to confirm. And you guys already know because you've watched it. 87, yeah. Let's go ahead with episode 87 of Freshly Grounded.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisu and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
No, after that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisu and Sam.
Really?
So it's on record now already.
It's recording, yeah. So welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So there's so many ways that this podcast could go, because there's so many things that we could talk about, but I wanted it to be like every episode of Freshly Grounded, quite rounded, and whatever we end up talking about, we talk about. I mentioned to you on the phone before, I pretty much end up saying this to every guest, and that's that we're 80 something episodes in now, and to this day not one episode has been scripted, and I think that's one of the secrets to our success, because it's just, that's what people want to hear, and that's what I like to hear. I just like to have a conversation with people. However, I do want to, based on when we do have people on who perhaps specialize in particular fields, it makes sense to utilize that and discuss those things with them. So when we have people who specialize in, we've had people who specialize in different things, and we ask them about those things.
Right.
And so there's many things that you, I suppose, specialize in, and I wanted to talk to you mainly about money management, right? And I'm going to give it somewhat of a I'm going to give a prequel to it,
Okay.
because I think that is needed. And I'll also mention now, and kind of get it out of the way, to remove the elephant in the room if people are thinking it, and it's that there's obviously, you've had like a crazy year, and the toughest year that you've ever had to deal with.
Has been a tough one.
And
Absolutely. Yep.
Obviously with the passing of your wife and my mommy last year, pretty much this time last year,
Yeah.
and your journey has been one that is very inspiring, and your battle over the past year is something that's very interesting. And so those who want to listen to that, you can do so by watching the first episode of the Ozone that you were on. I don't know what to call you. Did anyone have this issue as well?
Well, I know you always call me Money Mamu.
Yeah.
But maybe the listeners won't quite understand that.
I think in a professional...
Mamu means uncle.
Mamu
That's the
means
easier
uncle.
bit to explain.
And Mani is like your nickname.
My nickname from Rehman. So
Yeah.
my name is actually Rehman. So yeah, Money Mamu, or MM for short, on text messages.
Yeah, I'll try and avoid saying your name by all costs, so that it
it's
makes it
okay.
easier.
I understand.
But so I'll recommend to the listeners to listen to the first episode of the podcast that Mani Mamu was on, which is, I think, like, do you know what episode number it was?
No, I
Like
don't.
3 or 4
To be
something?
Very
Not
honest,
sure.
I don't remember the episode, but it was middle of this year, around kind of April time. I think April, May time.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was short, and that's where you kind of talk about your journey, and then the other episode of Ozone, which was literally just shot and should be out around the same time that this episode is out. So go and listen to both those episodes, because they're really interesting.
I'll give you the backstory, basically.
That will give you the backstory. I think, in fact, when listening to this podcast, it is good to kind of listen to those ones first to kind of understand who
Absolutely.
you are and that kind of stuff. But money management is what I want to talk about. And the reason I want to talk about it is because obviously I've known you all my life, because you're my mum's older brother. And I've been able to see your relationship with money, and also you've like spoken to us a lot about your relationship with money. And one thing that I'm really inspired by about you is that money is one of those things that everybody, it's like a lot of people's weakness, right? And it makes sense, because that's just how we're created. Like money, power, women, that's what men want. Money, power, and women. And you seem to have been able to discipline yourself. And when I speak specifically about money, I remember all the stories that you used to tell us about how, when you had Wasim and Nadia, you and Mami Jan would literally look under the sofas for pounds and pennies to make to get food or to make rent that week, right?
We used to search for any odd coins we could find. It really got that bad. Absolutely. Behind sofas and whatever. And I remember distinctly my younger brother kind of popping over and lending me a tenner so I could do a bit of food shopping that day. It really did get that bad.
And and now, alhamdulillah, you work for, can I say the largest, the biggest oil company in the world?
Officially, the way we talk about it now, we used to be an oil company, but we are the world's largest integrated energy supplier.
Okay.
Because now we don't just focus on oil extraction and production, but we do, alternative energy and renewables, and we do petrochemicals and right down the value chain to retail oil.
And not only do you work for these companies, but you also have quite a large role in them. Is that fair to say?
I guess it's a fairly senior position that I work in. It's not an executive senior position, but what I do is I work for human resources side of this business. And we have 70,000 employees.
Wow.
So you can imagine that makes it a very, very interesting role. And the capacity in which I'm currently working on is professional development. So I work for the department, it's management and professional development department. And I work as effectively a career counselor, but my role covers a lot more than just career counseling. It's the area of how, if I put it in a nutshell, how do we help people become the best version of themselves?
And that's really interesting because that's what we want to do on Freshly Grounded.
Sure.
And we one of our key aims when starting Freshly Grounded was to help people remove their ego. Mm-hmm. And so just to finish off my point, that you used to be such a kind of financial loss that you would have to look for any coins where you could find them, to the point where now you have a senior position at the world's largest energy company or whatever you said.
Yes.
But throughout the whole time, I've never seen your personality change, and I've never seen your morals change, and I've never even seen really your purchases change, in the sense of, obviously and naturally, as someone has more disposable income, they can perhaps buy shoes of better quality or a car that's more efficient, or perhaps take their family away on holidays, which is fine, that's granted. But I'm talking you don't go around wearing Rolexes and Versace sunglasses and try and show everyone how much disposable income you have or how much you don't have, right? And that's what I'm intrigued by, because
I don't flash the cash and I don't believe in bling.
Right,
yep.
because that's what I love, and that's what if there's one thing that people could take away from Freshly Grounded, it would be that. It would be to remove your ego and not care about what others think, but improve the quality of your own life and the life of others.
Absolutely.
For yourself and for the sake of Allah, because that's what's really going to matter, right? And but buying a Rolex for the sake of just trying to impress others is not really going to benefit anyone. Now, I have to also say that, and I also have to say, because my co-host Sam is really into his designer clothes and stuff, mashallah. But I have to say that it's obviously not haram to go and enjoy your money and this, that, the other, and especially when people do it. For example, when Sam likes to get himself nice things, he has said numerous times that he makes sure that his family is good, he makes sure that his business is good, and if he's got anything left over than that, he might indulge in something himself. But when where he indulges in that, other people, for example, might indulge in something else. So, for example, with me, I don't like to spend a lot of money on clothes and watches, but I love tech. So if I have some disposable income, I'd love to. I recently just bought a new smart TV, actually.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's really cool.
So did I.
Really?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
It's amazing.
I don't know why I waited so long.
Have you got the Netflix button and stuff?
Have.
Weird, isn't it? They actually have an
good.
official button for it.
I actually didn't have Netflix subscription before I bought my smart TV.
No way.
I didn't have time to watch TV, mate.
No, but the
So
smart TV's
when I got the
amazing.
smart TV, I actually got Netflix, and I've now got into a few nice series. I've watched Narcos.
Yeah.
And I'm getting into Breaking Bad now. But, just one little episode before bed, but I don't have time for TV.
Yeah, I know. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to delve into more. So this whole concept and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so I want to start with, I know you've said it so many times, and you have kind of spoken about it on Omar's original episode that he did with you. But I do want if you could just give us an overview of your a kind of time span or timeline of your financial and your and your jobs, and what jobs you were doing, and around what time you were doing those jobs, and how much you were earning in those jobs, somewhat. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, that is a useful place to start, just to say, well, where did I start and what happened in the middle and then where I am now. just so that you can see that kind of natural progression. So there was that really desperate time. After I'd left university, I did quite a few different jobs and, I went into business as well. So I did mechanical engineering as a degree. Then I went to Cranfield School of Management, and I decided I wasn't going to go into a corporate job, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur instead. And I've always been an entrepreneur. I'm basically a businessman. And I love running businesses, and I run several businesses right now. So there has been no point in my life after leaving uni that I haven't been doing some kind of business along with any job I've had. So I've had a variety of jobs. I've worked in financial services, retail management, and then I fell into IT a lot later after things didn't go quite well for me. And when the chips were really down, I have stacked shelves in Tesco's. I have driven minicabs for quite some time, actually. And minicabbing was good for me at that time because it put food on my table, right, for me and my kids and my wife. What else have I done? I've worked in airline food production. I've worked at McDonald's. I've worked in Harrods and Selfridges. So the point being, I did whatever was required. And that was my hustle period, all right? I think I could maybe characterize financial growth in like maybe 3 phases. One is that desperation when you're looking around thinking, my God, what the hell am I going to do with my life? Then you get through a little bit of a hustle period where you're just willing to do anything to get an income coming in, all right? You know what I mean. Mm-hmm. There's a basic level of income you need to eat, to clothe yourself, and to maybe look after your wife and kids. That's hustling. But then when you mature more than that, you then start looking at your career. How can I develop my career and give value to a company such that that company will pay me more than the average wage, a good wage? So that I think typifies my growth, my financial growth. So there was that desperate period. Then I did whatever it took and did many jobs. There was a time when I was doing 3 jobs. So I was driving a minicab overnight. I was grabbing a bit of sleep. I was doing the Tesco shelf stacking and then going for interviews for IT jobs.
Wow.
So that was pretty tough at that time. But I had a very, very supportive wife at home who made sure that the home was running nicely, the kids were, being looked after well. So, and someone that I wanted to work for, so she made me feel like becoming a success. And I think there would be the first lesson, if you marry the right person and if you have the right backing, it's an old cliche, isn't it? Behind every successful man is a good woman. And I think that is so true. Absolutely true. And that, I think, was my first stroke of luck, that I married the right person. And we had an amazing, amazing relationship. And as you said, we lost her about a year ago. And that's been why this year has been so devastating. But as you'll find out maybe later in this podcast, that aligned me even more and engaged me even more into what the future that we need to build for our kids. So then I came to the point where I needed to make value for myself. Okay. Did you have a question, or do you want me to go into that a bit more deeply?
No, so
Yeah.
there's a one of your keys to success.
Yes.
I know one of them you mentioned a lot is marrying the right person.
Yes.
Another one is one that I mentioned back to you recently when I made you that video. And do you remember what that was? The key that one of you. This is one thing that you said that.
Do the right thing.
No.
That's another conversation. Well, you tell me.
It was you do know, it's the whatever you do,
yes,
make sure you do it
the best of your ability. Be the best at
what you do.
Absolutely.
Even if you're a cab driver.
Yeah, and that's
so what kind of stuff were you doing when you were stacking shelves, or when you were a cab driver?
Listen, I absolutely so the main message, let's consolidate that message first. Whatever you end up doing in life, don't play the victim. Don't say, oh, woe is me, I'm driving a minicab at night, picking up drunkards. No, don't have that attitude. Say, Alhamdulillah, I have got a job and I have the ability and the physical ability and the mental capacity to do this job and to put food on the table for my wife and kids. Look at it from that point of view. And what I decided was that, okay, this is not the life I chose for myself after getting a degree and postgrad and everything. However, here's where I am. Accept it. And be the best cab driver in the entire company. So there's kind of things I did. I would always dress smartly. I was the only cab driver who used to regularly wear a tie, and I'd always make sure that I was, clean and tidy looking. My car was immaculate, right? No, absolutely spotless. So that's why my customers used to like riding in my car. I used to go up, instead of honking the horn outside someone's house, I would go right up to the door, bell, good evening, how you doing? I'm your cab driver. I'll be waiting in the car. Please come when you're ready. So I would provide a full door-to-door service with great conversation in the car. We had a good time. Played music for them. So there's lots of ways. I thought it from the customer perspective. And this was a time in my life where I was learning about customer service to the point where people would phone up the cab company and ask for me by name or numbers, as I was known. Yeah.
One of the amazing things about that is that this was a time that was pre-Uber. So now there's actually like an initiative, like there's a reason why people want to have that kind of customer service, because they wanted those 5 stars.
Yes.
But this was before you could get 5 stars.
No one gave me feedback.
This was just you personally saying to yourself, I want to be the best at everything I do. And I think that what we'll find as this conversation goes on is that the reason you were able to get to your level of success is because at the smallest points, you always did everything that you were doing to the best of your ability.
Absolutely.
And perhaps if you didn't do that, then you wouldn't be where you are now.
I might still be minicab driving.
So then when you were stacking shelves at Tesco, how were you approaching that?
My shelves were absolutely stacked most immaculately. I tried to do it within good time, and I tried to stay cheerful while I was doing it.
What about the perception of others though? Like people. What about the concept of being like I'm stacking shelves, or I'm a minicab driver? How old were you around that time?
I'd left uni, so I guess I was in my mid to late 20s.
So you were aware, like a lot of our listeners and myself and that would be at where we've left university, and you're at this crisis stage where you feel like, I have to do something because it's going to be embarrassing, basically. How did you get over that?
There was stigma. Of course there is. In our culture, right? You're sitting in a family party. What does your son do? Right? So I had absolutely no problem with the stigma, honestly.
But how though? How did you battle that?
Because I had a supportive wife. I keep coming back to that. Because I have a duty, right? If I don't go out and do that job, are those people who are criticizing me going to pay and to feed my kids, right?
Yes,
so they will criticize, but what's my role? Focus on your role. My role was to nurture this family and to get us out of this. Now, I didn't go into minicabbing for life, right? I went into there as a stopgap, and I knew that. So when I was ever feeling depressed when leaving the house to go to Tesco's, because I was doing night shift, and there were times when I used to feel that drudgery. I used to put on that grey T-shirt and those grey trousers and the little box cutter, you put it in your back pocket, and tell you, my wife would send me out of the door with a smile on my face. I can physically now remember times when I literally had tears in my eyes, right? And Shafia would say to me, Rehman, you know why you're doing this. And you know that our future is bright. She always used to say that. She always had such faith, so much iman, that the future would be bright. This is just a short period we need to get through.
Wow.
She had blind faith in this, I'm telling you. And so she would fill me with enough courage to go out, and because I knew that she wanted. Yeah, there are certain, I think, partners who would kick you in the teeth and say, "Oh, you got a degree. What the hell are you doing with yourself?" They would do you down. But no, there wasn't a single point at which she lost respect for me, and that was constant, absolutely constant.
There has to be a sense of you, and I think it shows the beauty of your character when you blame others for your success, and obviously you blame is normally a negative connotation, but truth be told, there has to be parts in your character that allow you to be that person, to be the person who is so hardworking that they don't, and also to not care what other people think. Yes, there obviously is an element of the people around you and the motivation, but a lot of it has to come from within.
I've always been very stubborn about my own success. I set very high standards on myself, and I've had this trait since I was about 10 or 11. Anything I have to do, I aim for perfection.
Do you see that trait in any of your kids?
Who? Yeah, Nadia,
really?
I think, has a very similar trait. I think in some ways both the boys have it as well, in that they're not as manic as I am about it and so obsessive, and I do sometimes coach them in this area, that when you do something, do it to the best of your ability, and then wait for the right results. Always try to aim for the highest standard. I apply the highest standards in my role that I do for my company at the moment, and that, alhamdulillah, is being recognized. And this year I've become even more engaged with what I'm doing, because I have a passion for what I do in my company, and I don't actually work for a living anymore. I actually get up in the morning and I run to work, and I feel enthusiastic about what I'm going to do. Every day is different. Alhamdulillah, honestly. I can honestly say this. So I'm in a lucky position now, but one thing I want to get across to your listeners is that things don't happen overnight. It's a series of progressions, a series of pennies dropping in your head, going through hardship and learning from each. And I know it's a cliche that you have to fail so many times before you reach that success. My current success has taken me 20 to 30 years to achieve. And I think that the turning point really was when I got offered the job in Saudi Arabia, and really when I left UK, and that was 17 years ago now.
Before then, were you earning? Were you earning a? By the way, I've just put my feet up, and so the listeners who are watching on YouTube are going to say, "Why on earth are you wearing socks?" And on top of that, why are you wearing white socks with
white socks and black shoes? It's very, very.
But also, you don't wear socks with these trousers. You just don't do it. But I'm doing it because. It's just more comfortable, and I thought about comfort. Comfort first,
absolutely. As long as you're happy.
The job that you had just before you got offered the job in Saudi. Was your salary then like enough? Like, were you now at a point where you were like doing all right?
Okay, so the salary jumps came from job jumps. So that's the first thing to notice. To really increase your salary, you've got to jump companies. By and large, that rule applies. Okay, you'll have salary increments obviously within a company. So the points at which I got the real salary jumps were when I went. So I was working when I came into IT. Initially, I worked for free. Right,
really?
My first job was nothing. They just paid my travel. So that was I just finished a certification as a CNA, which is Certified Novel Administrator. I studied that in a college in Watford. That was provided by the government, that course. So they placed me in a company in Watford, in fact. SCO Unix, Santa Cruz Operations, which own the Unix operating system. And I worked for them for 3 months for free. And that was just to get the job experience. But within 3 months, I had enough experience on my CV to go to Royal Bank of Scotland, where I went onto the help desk in Bristol. So that was my first jump. Okay, so that was a contractor role. If I remember correctly, it was something like £10-12 an hour, maybe £15 an hour. Which for me was great. You know, I suddenly went from a really, really low paying position where it was a respectable job in a bank and doing this and earning a decent hourly rate.
Yeah, that's a good salary.
Yeah,
especially,
not bad.
I saw this article recently that said that obviously this wasn't 1979, but in 1979, a salary of £9,000 a year would be, because of inflation, the equivalent to now earning £43,000 a year.
I was doing okay.
So £12 a month. Yeah. Sorry, £12 a month. £12 an hour.
12 to £15 an hour. Yeah.
It was very good for that.
Fine. But see, what I'd done was, by taking a series of calculated kind of risks and doing certain moves, because I had originally decided to go into retail management because that's where my experience was of running the business and everything. And I had a conversation with someone who said, look, you're wasting your time in retail. The time frames are very large for promotions in retail. So you'll get to a branch manager maybe in a retail, then maybe you'll make it to area manager, and that's pretty much where your role may, your promotion chances may stop, and the salaries aren't that good. So is that, and this is one very important point to make, is when you network with people who know things about careers and various jobs. So talk to people out there, network with people, get their opinion, because it was that one conversation which moved me from retail management to IT that probably then put me on probably about it. It actually did put me on a completely different trajectory to where I sit now. That one conversation. Okay, so I went into IT. Then I worked after Royal Bank of Scotland. I went to Cable and Wireless in Holborn, worked for them for a year and a bit. And that's where my first decision point came. Cable and Wireless offered me another contract role at twice my contracting rate at the time. Really, really big bump in my salary to be head of training. They said, we'd like someone to head the training department here, and we'll offer you much more than you're earning now. At the same time, a job came up at a lower salary and much further away from home to get into the world of SAP. And some of your listeners may know SAP is a very specialist area within the world of IT. It's enterprise resource planning. It's a German software company. And I, again, had conversations with various people. I talked to agencies, and they said SAP is the next best thing. You need to basically work in the world of SAP to make really, really good money, and there are really good jobs there. So I decided, and again, this was a tough decision to take at the time. Do I look at the money or do I look at the career prospects of working in SAP? I went for the second one, which is a harder decision. So I took a role at Pearson Education, which was up in Welwyn Garden City. I had an hour and a quarter to drive each way every morning at a much lower salary. So now I would say there I was down to about 20K a year. Okay, so I took a drop. Okay, so 20K a year. I worked for them for about a year, and in their operations area, learned all about SAP. They sent me to academy and get training. And next came my biggest stroke of luck.
But hold on, before we go into that, your 20K. So when you're at this 20K a year salary job, you are now you've left the you've left the phase of mini cabbing and like scraping money. You're now at the point where, alhamdulillah, through your salary, you're able to pay bills and meals.
I'm off the bottom of the barrel, but I had debts outstanding from a house that I'd lost, and so I was paying old payments on that. I had other debts that I hadn't been servicing.
But you were getting by every month?
Sort of.
Just about?
Just about. I was by no means making any savings. I had debts, and we were okay-ish.
I can't wait to talk about savings with you. So before we get too excited, what made you make the decision to go for the job that had more career prospects
and less money,
and was also further away, especially considering you had all these debts and stuff?
Right, because I was interested in having a career, not a job, and I was very ambitious to fulfill my potential, right? And my potential at that stage, I wanted to hit 6 figures. That's the goal I was focusing on.
What does 6 figures mean, like in the hundreds of thousands?
6 figures means where you have to write 6 figures for your salary.
So,
right? So 99,000 is not 6 figures, right? That's 5 figures. Yeah. So once you get into an area which is more than £100,000 is 6 figures.
Okay, that sounds so dumb of me to ask, but
I got you. People often say that without really knowing what it means. But over 100K.
Okay.
Now,
at this point, you're on 20.
That was so far
you're
away
80,000
from what
away.
I'm only 80,000 away. So then I got headhunted about a year later by GSK, GlaxoSmithKline.
Yes.
Up in Stockley Park. And that was my first stroke of luck, I guess, because they were opening a global SAP competency center. They had a whole day's worth of testing. And I came out as one of the top candidates in that testing. I heard I scored really highly.
How does headhunting work though? As in, so you heard about the opportunity and you went to this testing thing?
Well, they headhunted me.
How?
So they knew through agencies that I work in that field. There was an open day. They invited me to come to the open day for initial interviews, right? So they hear through agencies that you work in that field.
Okay.
Headhunting is when the employer initiates the contact to you and said, we want someone of your skills.
Sure.
And so I went to a whole day testing center. I did really well in the test, and they said, we want you. But my old company wouldn't let me go. They had me in a lock, especially because of the training that they provided me.
Of course.
So I said to them, look, I've had an offer from GSK. They want to bring me over. And GSK said, look, we'll offer you a £5,000 golden handshake if you leave your old job and come over to us. And they were offering a 30K salary. So not huge jump in salary, but still decent. Still a jump, 10K jump.
But hold on a second, you're not allowed to leave the other job though.
No, you weren't allowed. So I'll tell you how I managed it. So they said, we'll offer you a £5,000 handshake. And I said, well, look, that's really great. I'd love to come and work for you, especially because you're closer to home as well for me. But my company is saying that, they need... They've paid for my training courses. They need me to pay that back for them. I would imagine that was somewhere around £15,000, and I couldn't afford to pay £15,000 training course. I told my potential employers this, GSK. They said, "Can you give us about 5 minutes and we'll get back to you."
5 minutes.
5 minutes. That's all they needed. So they called me back, and I said, "Okay, just get your old employers to send us a bill." And we'll pay them on top of the 5,000. They were that keen on getting me over to...
And you still got the 5K?
Yeah.
What did you do with that? Come on, that must have been the first time you had like a bulk couple grand.
5K was a lot of money for me at that stage, right? So I banked it and I put it into savings. And I think, I don't remember exactly what I did with it, but I did something sensible with it.
Did you? Wow, I can only imagine you do something sensible.
I didn't.
Did you treat your wife or something?
I'm sure I did.
But did you put any of it into debts and stuff?
I did.
Okay.
That's what I meant when I said I did something sensible. I didn't throw a party.
Okay.
But I did utilize it very sensibly because it was a big lump to come to me at that stage.
Well, this is the thing that I believe gives you and you're going to love me saying this, the slight edge.
Yeah.
And the reason is because anyone else would be like, you know what? I've grafted. I've been in a cab job and like stacking shelves, and I've finally got myself to this point. You know what? I have not seen 5k hole in my bank account like that before. I deserve to treat myself. But you went, okay, this is just a step, but don't be phased by it. We got. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
I'm focused on the bigger goal, right? The reason for a lot of my career decisions I took, and they weren't easy, right? I don't go for the easy path. I still don't in life, right? As you'll hear later, I'm even still not satisfied now. I've got big mountains I still want to climb at the moment. I'm very enthusiastic. And that's why each decade of my life has been better than the last, right? I'm in my 50s now. My 20s were better than my teens. My 30s were better than my 20s. My 40s were better than my 30s. And I've made them better. Alhamdulillah. I know with support and luck and everything as well, that I've forced myself into positions which makes them better. So here I am in my 30k, nice cushy job. And it was a good number. I really enjoyed my time at GSK. But still, something inside me said, Rahman, you're still not at the promised land. You're still not up that mountain.
Also, then at this 30k, I know I'm going to continue to butt into this conversation because I have so many questions.
Sure.
At the 30k, I'm trying to figure out inflation wise. Right now, you're probably looking at like a 50k salary.
Maybe.
Okay, so yeah, you had
it felt a lot,
and you were able to. Now you're able to get head of water. A bit.
Now I've got my head above water, and now I'm kind of happy that I'm paying, getting a decent wage.
Okay.
However, about a year and a bit into my role there, I decided to go contracting. So I decided to set my own consultancy firm up and go and contract for daily rates. Okay.
While also working at GSK.
No.
Oh, you left GSK.
So I left GSK.
Okay.
Much to my surprise, family's surprise, even GSK's surprise, because it was a very cushy number. So I would have ended up I looked ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what's going to happen 5 years from now? Where am I 10 years from now? Am I, all right, middle management, maybe up to about 50, 60K. But I was focused on that six-figure salary, right?
Sure.
So I left and I went contracting because in those days, contracting was very lucrative, right? It was doing quite well. And so I went and did a 3-month contract in Manchester, in nuclear plant in Manchester, where they were doing a SAP upgrade, so they're using my skills there. But 3 months into that contract, the contract finished. So the risk almost didn't pay off. But at that time, one of my colleagues who was working in the same place said, Rahman, there's his jobs coming through in Saudi Arabia. And I'm actually thinking of going. What do you reckon? You want to take a look at it? And I'd had a bit of a bad experience of a previous offer from Saudi Arabia, a couple of years before that. And, I wasn't sure. And come on, moving completely halfway around the world to the Middle East where I don't know a single thing. I thought, no, I felt very dubious about that. I thought, I don't know. The agency said to me, just have an interview. Just see what the job is about. Have a chat with the employers and then just let us know what you feel. I said, okay, no harm done. I can have an initial chat. So the consultancy firm in Saudi Arabia called me up, and the guy was on my mobile phone for about just under an hour. I thought, God, these guys are serious, obviously. And they explained to me that the role was at one of the world's largest companies. They were offering 100,000 with a villa and a car.
Wow.
And paid holidays and
tax-free.
And a bonus.
Wow.
I thought, ooh, that gels very nicely with my, with my targets and where I wanted to be. And
surely that's your goal.
That was my goal. That was my goal. Actually, it was $100,000, not £100,000. So it was officially not quite my target, but it's slightly under, isn't it?
No,
so
I thought pounds worth more than dollars back then, wasn't it?
I don't know which way around it is, but
I think. But
okay. So it's $100,000, and
you got offered $100,000. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I thought you said that your goal was $100,000.
It was pounds.
I was thinking, why are your goals in dollars? You live in England.
but because in the Middle East, you're generally paid in dollars.
Okay.
Right? And so, but the job came with a lot of perks.
Yeah.
With a free house
Sure.
and a free car and everything. So I decided to go for it. I had obviously a couple of more interviews. I had 3 more interviews, and they decided to hire me, and they placed me. So it was a consultancy role placed at Saudi Aramco as an end client, where I'm now a permanent employee. So I suddenly found myself within the space of around 3 years, right, 2 to 3 years, having just come into IT, doing 2 to 3 strategic jumps into a salary which was like 4 to 5 times. But can you see the mentality and the attitude I used for each jump? And the jumps came from me taking risks. So first risk, saying no to the highly paid head of training at Cable and Wireless. Second risk, going to that lower, part of the same risk was going to a lower paid job, an hour and a quarter to Pearson every day. By the way, I just remembered, on the way back from Pearson every night, I used to work in a hotel as a bellboy. Taking suitcases up. You never knew this, did you?
No, I had no idea.
I used to stop off at a hotel. I used to put on my little waistcoat and work for about 3 hours, 4 hours on the door, taking suitcases up to people's rooms. Because I needed to supplement my income. And in that same time, I worked parking cars at Heathrow Airport for valet parking. So I got to drive these cars. So all of the same period, I'm doing these jobs, but I had to supplement my income. So this is another rule that I would tell people, that don't rely on one income. So I've taken that to another level now in a much, much smarter way. But even at that time, I have never, ever relied on just one income. So don't do one job. If you need more income, use that time, use every hour that you have. And I mean, look, it's tiring, it's frustrating, it's depressing, but it's about the pounds and pence you are getting walking into that door at that stage of your life to build that foundation. You're building a financial foundation. Second risk I took was leaving Pearson and coming to Glaxo Wellcome. Not such a risk, because they were offering me a great salary. The next major risk I took was leaving a cushy job, a very comfortable job, pensionable, everything, at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, to go contracting. And that almost didn't pay off. Then the next risk was moving halfway around the world without my family initially. My family followed later, but I wanted to know if it was going to be an environment they'd enjoy, and going to a foreign country in a foreign environment and going for a company I'd never heard of. But if I think back now, alhamdulillah, it was the single biggest and best decision of my life to go to Saudi Arabia and work for Aramco, where I am still based now. So within that role, 2 years after being a consultant, the company offered me a permanent role in the company, and that's where I work now. So wow. and the salary.
And since then, you've had numerous promotions.
Yeah, of course.
And you don't even work in the same field that you got officially employed. You don't work in IT at all.
Started as a SAP consultant, then I've worked in the areas of change management, communication consultant, and now I'm an HR person, professional development. I do professional development. I coach and mentor especially our graduate employees, younger employees, on being the best version of themselves.
You basically teach people how to be good people.
Absolutely.
And speak well and stuff like that.
That's a nice way to put it.
Oh, wow. I'm very happy that we had that overview, because there's so much I want to go into.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that we have all the time. Okay, so let's talk about the idea of money management from a perspective that's not from a perspective of someone who's earning a six-figure... all of these things I want to talk to you about today are concepts that I want discussed in a manner in which it can be applied to a person who's earning £1,000 a month, or a person who's earning £10,000 a month.
Sure.
Right? Because I believe, based on your story, that, and also based on seeing things around me and making some changes myself, that it really is how you do something small is it shows how you do things. Basically, there's a better example. It's something like you can tell a lot from someone by how they. I can't remember. But even then, there's loads of motivational talks and stuff that even start with say things like every day when you wake up, you start by making your bed, because the fact that you've made your bed, it shows that you're on the right track, kind of thing, right? So these little things is what I'm talking about. So if we relate that to money management now, let's talk about debts first and get that out of the way, because if people are in debts, for example, how do you recommend that they get out of debt? So how do they live? Because, for example, just like the example you gave, you had that 5k, you could have spent that 5k on enjoying yourself, but you would have still been in debt. And also, do you yourself as a person avoid getting in debt at all costs? And is that something that you would recommend, especially now that we live in a society of finance? You can get everything on finance, and everything you can even get things on interest-free finance. So it doesn't look that bad. I could buy a TV or a bed or a sofa or anything. I can't afford to get it, but I can afford £50 a month. And that mentality, I suppose, gets you in debt and stuff. So I want to talk about this kind of concept of debt and getting out of it and make sure you're not in it in the first place. And what is your mentality behind it?
I never had a credit card until I went to Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Just didn't have a credit card. Okay. I had a debit card, which would get paid off at the end of the month, and I needed that to make things, just bookings online, cinema and whatever, right? So you do need some form but I had a debit card. Credit cards, I think, are one of the most dangerous inventions of man, because they make it really easy for you to spend money. And so half the battle is avoiding debt at all costs at a time when your income can't sustain debt. And I think there's a real issue here that needs to be addressed. You've got to live within your means. And the more you can train yourself to do that, not be a victim of the latest fashions and this, I've got to buy this, I've got to buy that. At a time when your salary is at a fairly low level and you're not living within your means, you've really got to focus on trying to get a small stockpile of cash under you, the savings element, because you need a buffer. So one way you could look at it is that whatever salary you make, no matter how small, take a little amount that you decide on a monthly basis, put that away in another bank account on the first day of the month as you get paid. Pay yourself first. Then whatever's left is your spending money. Now most people, being humans, we do it the other way around. We get this nice little bump in our bank account at the beginning of the month or whatever, where you've got your monthly salary. You think, well, hey, I've got all this money, I'm going to go out and enjoy myself and this and that. And then whatever's left at the end of the month, if there's something left at the end of the month, I'll consider that savings. That's upside down thinking. Think of yourself first and your future first. Put the saving away first. So whether it's £50 or £100, as my dear wife used to say, Katre katre se darya banta hai, which is Urdu for from small droplets you get a river. Okay? It doesn't matter how small that amount is. If you save £100 a month, you'll have £1,200 at the end of the year. And when you're not well off, believe me, that £1,200 can be gold dust, because it can pay for a holiday, it can pay for something important, right?
Guys, I'm just going to take a little pause in the middle of this episode just to shout out our sponsors. Guys, Wahid Invest are revolutionizing halal investing. Wahid Invest is a platform where you can put your money and have it make money, but in a way that is Islamically ethical, in a way where it's not accumulating interest. So you're not putting your money into a savings account and accumulating interest. You're putting it into a place where they're investing your money into halal businesses, into commodities, and making money off your money. They're doing all the hard work for you. You can go on their website and check the FAQs and see how it works. But they have an Islamic Sharia compliance board to see that their companies are halal, that your money is going into, and to see that the decisions are being made in a halal way. Definitely worth checking out. And the way you can do so is by going to freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. That's freshlygrounded.com/WAHED. Wahid have helped people all around America invest their money into halal portfolios, and now they've come to the UK. Okay? They come to the UK, okay? The UK, okay? They come to the UKK. Okay? I've forgotten what I was gonna say. The script. That's what they do, guys. And you can sign up instantly. That's it. You can sign up with as little as £100. That's your first deposit. Your first deposit, and you get your account improved instantly. So guys, check it out. Go to freshlygrounded.com/Wahid. That's freshlygrounded.com/WAHED. Okay, let's get into the rest of this episode.
So, do you still recommend saving even if a person is in debt?
Absolutely.
But what is, should the priority not be pay the debt?
Well, saving is you paying yourself before your debt as well, right?
Okay.
So, yeah. So I would still say put yourself at number one. Now, I was speaking to someone just the other day who does owe an amount to a bank, and they were talking to me about it's really causing me a lot of stress, and I'm really worried about it, and I can't sleep at night. I just feel really anxious. So I sat down with them, and I had a little one-to-one coaching session with them, and I said, well, explain everything that's happening. He goes, well, I've been contacted by lawyers and they're threatening me, and so I've just blocked their number. And I said, okay, well, there's your first mistake. What you have to do is communicate. Right? When I had debt, because I lost my home, So I had this mortgage company which was chasing me for the money. The one thing I never did was stop talking to them. Keep communicating with people you owe money to. Explain your circumstances. Say, I've got a couple of kids, this is my income. And first say, I accept the debt. I am willing to pay it, but here are my circumstances. And put them on £5 a week. Give them something. So there was a time in my life where I owed a lot of money to a mortgage company who had taken my home away from me. We'd become homeless, but I was always paying them at least £10 a month. And they accepted it, as long as you're paying them something. So never block out debtors, even if it's in your family, right? Don't ignore a debt, because when you ignore a debt, it gets bigger and bigger, and it becomes more stressful. So do pay your debts, but within your means. So if you've got £500 left at the end of the month, make an arrangement to pay them £50 or £100, and according to your means, and they will understand. Then, as your income grows, so I was doing all of this to my creditors when I was in debt. When I went to Saudi Arabia, my first aim was to kill all the debts, and I did it within the first year, because obviously I had a lot more disposable income then. So within my first year of being in Saudi, I had killed all my debts, and that was a great feeling, So I made arrangements and paid checks over, and alhamdulillah, I was free. That then allowed me the mental space to then plan my financial future. And then that's when I went into property, because that was going to be my source of income. I decided that property business is the best way to make money in the world, and I still hold that belief. I've been running a property business now for 17 years. Haven't looked back. Alhamdulillah.
So do you have the mindset that if you can't afford it, don't get it kind of thing?
Oh, too true.
Whereas it's so easy to know.
Yeah, it is.
Because I'm not even talking about credit cards. I'm talking like
just bling, just stuff you don't need.
Yeah. And also, like I mentioned, you can get anything and everything on finance. So
don't.
Yeah,
just don't
do it,
because you're in a self-defeating cycle. Then, aren't you? It's just it doesn't make sense to me. If you can't afford it, don't get it. Get it when you can. Pay for it cash. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and say this right now, but honestly, it is a cycle that you'll get into, which will kill you in the end, because you're going to be so underwater with your debts that no matter how much you earn, then you have to get a huge jump in salary to overcome that. So, don't
something Dave Ramsey says is like back in the day, our parents, if they couldn't afford something, they wouldn't get it. So he because they didn't have the money for it. The finance and stuff didn't necessarily exist then.
Yep.
Then he says, now we live in a society where you can get everything on finance. And then he says, like you were saying, if you can't afford it, get it cash. And he said the only important thing basically is that you have roof over your head, food on the table for your family, yourself and your family, and transport. And he brings transport into it, which is quite interesting, because he could have said, look, if you don't need a car, walk or get bus. But he does bring into it because I think he understands the society right nowadays. You do need transport of some sort.
If you think of some of the richest men in the world right now, I can think of 3 off the top of my head, right? The late Steve Jobs, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, and if you think of Microsoft, right, and Bill Gates, can you think of one thing that all 3 people, visualize them right now. Can you think of one thing that they have in common?
You don't see them in designer clothes.
There you go. Stuff, Mark Zuckerberg wears the same grey t-shirt everywhere he goes, right? Bill Gates wears these nice, old men jumpers. He had the Steve Jobs used to have his trademark black polo neck, right? If you look at Warren Buffett, he still lives in a nice little house he used to live in, drives a small car, doesn't have a laptop in his home. These guys could afford anything they want in their lives, right? Anything. They could just write a check for it. But their values are different.
Bill Gates said in an interview once, they spoke to him about that. He said, you do all this humanitarian work and you don't seem to spend a lot of money. So he said that the one luxury, I don't buy a lot of things. He said the one luxury I allow myself to have is that I travel on private jet.
Right.
And he said that because I travel so much that I do enjoy that when I'm traveling, I have a bit of comfort. And I rated that. I was like, that, because that's something I would want to do. Like, because I hate, I really dislike traveling, and I really dislike being bored. I actually spoke to my wife about this exact thing yesterday, because as I told you, we just like booked that thing, and I was saying to her that it's really weird because before we booked it, I was getting all this anxiety about it because I don't like traveling.
Yeah, some people don't like it.
And but I know that obviously you can't avoid traveling with your life. And with my job, I just came off a 5-day tour, so I know that traveling is important. But because I have that thing against it, I think it's just naturally something that's in me. I would potentially probably go that extra mile to look after myself when I'm traveling, and like maybe like with transport or with a hotel room and stuff. Whereas other people, I was actually speaking about this on the tour, and you know, some people were saying, oh, was it on the tour? Was it someone else? But I was speaking to somebody, and they were saying, oh, I'd rather get a car, for example, like a really nice car. And I said, what's crazy is that I never fantasize about cars. Like I never think to myself, I really want a nice car, Ferrari, anything.
Well, everyone has their definitions, right?
But I said, I said, I'm happy with my car.
Yeah.
And until it doesn't work anymore, I don't think I'm going to get another one. But when it comes to me traveling and stuff, like I would spend a little extra cash on a nice hotel room because I just enjoy that comfort. And he turned around and said, that's so temporary. If you get a really nice car, then it's yours. Whereas a hotel room, I'd rather just stay in rubbish. And I found interesting how both of us just saw the other person's perspective, but had our own feelings.
My definition of when I'm really comfortable is that whenever I travel on an aircraft, I want to be able to just book business class or first class. Well, let's call it business class. I don't think there's a huge difference between business and first, but business class without even thinking about it, right?
Is that your thing?
I'd love to do that. I'd love to be able to do that because I've just been on a trip from Saudi to Pakistan and Pakistan to UK. On a couple of the legs, I was actually upgraded to business class. So within the space of less than a week, I had experience of flying on business class and in economy, and believe me, there's a lot of difference. It's so much more comfortable. And I'd like to just only travel business class wherever I go.
Do you do that?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Sometimes it's a massive jump because
it is. It's a huge jump.
You know, if you fly to Europe, you can actually because I was looking at yesterday's the stuff we booked yesterday. I was looking at that, and it was only £120 extra for business class.
When it's just a small amount, I don't mind. But sometimes it can be 3 or 4 times the cost of a ticket. So I have to be careful.
When we travel to Dubai, I look at the flights, and it's £300 for a return flight to Dubai, and 3,000.
There you go, 10 times the amount, right?
£3,000.
It's the same 8-hour flight.
But I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind getting to the point in my life, inshallah, where I can just book that. And I know that sounds like absurd because because I'm probably the first person who speaks about why are you doing that, why are you doing that, like why are you spending crazy money.
Same here, bro. Same here.
But
I want to get to that point where I, without getting my calculator out, I'm thinking, what's the difference? Just book it. Forget it. But inshallah.
Okay, cool. So I'm glad we spoke about that to an extent.
So where were we?
We
were looking at the progression of money and how you...
I had a conversation with you a few months ago, and it was about... I was asking you how you manage all your finances on a month-to-month basis and like pay your bills and stuff. And you told me the technique you use. You kind of mentioned it just a bit earlier about sorting things out on the first. But what is your process?
I have an Excel spreadsheet at which I have all the monthly expenses, the fixed costs that have to be paid out. So I have a control sheet in a certain folder on my laptop. And for that month, I print out that control sheet. And as I make the payments, I tick them off. And I make sure they're all done on the first. So that on the first of the month, so I'm talking about things like mobile phone bills. I don't have utility bills because my company pay them all for me. But other expenses that I have that need to go out on a monthly basis. So paying the gardener, paying the driver, and I have those sorts of bills now instead of the utility bills. But anything and everything that needs to be done on the first of the month, get it off your head, get it paid. And of course, at the very top of that sheet is my savings. So the first line of the spreadsheet says savings.
What are your savings for? Because you have the property business as well now. So you're making monthly. So what are your savings? What are they for?
I still need to save.
You don't know?
I do. But I still need to save. Now, the savings don't necessarily need to be for something specific, but it needs to be money which is out of your current account. When money is in your current account, you're likely to spend it. When you take money physically out of a current account and push it into a savings account, you're physically removing that money from yourself.
But
I still need to save, no matter how high your salary is, no matter how well off you think you are, you still need a saving
For emergencies.
for a rainy day,
Rainy
for an
day, okay.
emergency. Absolutely. And
The finance plan that I mentioned Dave Ramsey earlier, the one that he kind of speaks about. So he basically says that step one is basically to build a £1,000 emergency fund. Did I tell you about this?
Nope.
So his steps are build a £1,000 emergency fund,
Okay.
and have that in your savings account, right?
Sure.
Now go into a debt snowball where you pay off all of your debts,
Okay.
basically, yeah. And so that could take years, or it takes however long. But you have a £1,000 emergency fund in case you're driving and your car breaks down. It takes you from who can I borrow 250 quid off to it's a bit inconvenient, but I'll take it out of my emergency fund.
I agree.
Right? And then he says step 3 now is to create an actual emergency fund. He said £1,000 is not enough.
No.
So he said that an actual emergency fund is 6 to 8 months worth of what you need to survive in a fund. So what happens is if you lose your job, you can survive for 6 to 8 months, and while you basically pick yourself up and
All
find
this is relative to how much you're earning.
well, the thing is, his plan
Yeah.
is meant to be not relative, like
Sure.
like fire.
But when you mention figures, the £1,000 could be irrelevant to someone who's earning
no, but that's
40K.
right? No, but that's
And-
for it's not it's not relevant. I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah.
let's say if you're earning £100,000
Okay.
and you have 50 grand in debt,
Okay.
but you have 60 grand in your savings.
Mm-hmm.
He says that until you pay off your debts, you freeze your savings. You pay off your debts, you get your head above water. Then you can start saving again.
I can see some logic in that. I
Right.
can.
But also, you got to bear in mind, the people who are ringing him up and are like struggling, they're not people who are millionaires. They're people who are like, I've got debts, I'm in overdraft or whatever this, and
sure.
I don't have savings and whatever. And he's like, all right, look, save £1,000 first as fast as you can, because otherwise whatever happens, you got £1,000, right? Or $1,000, he says. So, but there's steps. So someone who is earning a good enough salary, they're not even going to be on that step. They're not going to be on the step where they're trying like.
Look, I'm not in disagreement with you, and I think what I and Dave Ramsey are saying are effectively the same thing.
Yeah.
That have a savings element, right?
Yeah.
And build up that buffer and service your debts.
Yeah,
Don't go out spending wildly on things you don't need.
of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So have some sort of budget. Now, I guarantee you that there are listeners out there who have got no idea what their monthly budget is, and they're living day to day. So now it's even more simple. You've got contactless.
That was me, you know.
You've got contactless cards. You've got Apple Pay. How easy is it now to go and spend £7 or £8 at a coffee shop, right? Go down to Starbucks or wherever, spend £7 or £8 or £10 on just like a basic couple of coffees and a croissant or whatever, and that adds up on a monthly basis. So
That was me.
people are out there with no notion of what their actual monthly budget is. So,
I used to have no idea
right.
what was in my bank account.
So first thing to do is to analyze.
Yeah.
Right. As you say, you had no idea, right?
And now, I know every day.
Good.
Because I have to keep on top of it.
Start with an analysis. Put together a simple spreadsheet, and let's look at historic then. If you don't have a budget moving forward, start a spreadsheet. Very, very simple columns. So build a column for entertainment, for food, grocery, shopping, travel, right? All the obvious stuff that you spend money on, and historically plot it for the month. So say that in the month of January, I'm going to keep every single receipt. I'm going to keep a note. You just keep it simple. Keep a little simple diary if you want of every time you buy something. Just note it down that, put it into that spreadsheet so that you'll see a pattern of your spending. How much am I spending on each area? To give yourself an idea. How much did I spend on mobile phone bills? How much did I spend on utilities? So that over the months, you build up a pattern and you say, am I living beyond my means? Am I staying within my means? How much and this is where that power of saving comes in, because before you start spending on all of those, if you tuck away £50 or £100, then you're removing that money. So the whole idea is physically removing the money away from yourself. So it's at the point where you have to pretend like you don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy to spend. So give it to someone else, and that someone else is called your saving account. So whether you give it to your husband or wife to put in a box on a shelf, or whether you put it into another bank account, it doesn't really matter. You figure out what works for you. But the whole idea is separate that money out, and slowly, it becomes a large amount, And again, you mentioned the slight edge. I think that I would highly recommend that people listening to this get a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. That's Jeff Olson. It's a beautiful book, very, very simple read, but it shows you how to manage your finances and your relationships and anything else you want to do in life, even your health and fitness, through a series of boring but repetitive actions which are easy to do and easy not to do. And this whole savings area comes into that kind of category. And believe me, it'll be a real eye-opener for you. So,
did I tell you about the book that I read about 6-7 months ago that I believe literally changed my life?
okay.
It was called, and I'm only going blank now because
It's all right. Do you remember who
this
it's
book
by?
changed my life, and it's
And I
called,
can't remember what it's called.
It's by Ryan Holiday, and it's called The Obstacle is the Way. The Obstacle is the Way.
Okay,
Right?
yeah.
Right. Now, this book, what it basically talks about is how to deal with the obstacles in your life, whether they are financial, whether there's been a death in the family, and all these different kind of scenarios. And it talks about the notion of stoicism, which is basically the idea that how to take these obstacles and use them as turn them around basically and use them as advantages.
Not see them as obstacles, but as challenges.
Not see them as obstacles, and also how to kind of not ever be too much like when you get bad news, you go like completely crazy.
You're
And when you
talking
get
about
good
having a
news,
positive demeanor and about having a positive attitude, basically,
Right.
amongst.
But it's amazing. It's amazing for that, man. So
good.
after
There
reading
you
that
go.
book,
2 good recommendations
Yeah.
there for you to read.
I finished that book about 3 times in the space of about 2
Nice.
months.
And I've read Slight Edge several times, and I get something more out of it every time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really, really good read. Again, this is the notion that when you are in trouble or in challenging times of your life, reach out. Reach out. Don't try to figure everything out yourself. Reach out to friends. Reach out to mentors, coaches. I've had mentors since I was a teenager. There's never been a time when I've not had a mentor, right? People I look up to and respect. And mentors can take various shapes, sizes and forms. They don't need to be paid. You can have informal mentors. Your children can be your mentors. Your parents are your mentors. So I learned lots from my kids. And I have paid mentors as well. I currently have paid mentors who I pay good money to help me become a best version of myself.
Do you mentor
I
other than
mentor.
obviously
I
in your
do.
actual job?
I do mentor, and it's something that I do on an informal basis within my company. I'm approached by a lot of, especially younger employees. Oh, Rehman, I've got a presentation to do in like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like to top management, and I'm really scared. I'm really nervous. Can you give me some pointers? So I'll kind of brief them on how to be effective and little tips on how they can present. And I believe I did a bit of mentoring for you recently as well, which I hope helped you.
Amazingly.
Thank you. Good. So I want to do more of that this year, but I'm just trying to find an effective way to help as many people as possible, given that my time is quite restricted. So obviously the best way of mentoring is like one-to-one, where you get the full attention of each other. But I'm looking at doing more of that this year, and let's see how it works.
You need to start podcasting. We know this. We
Yes.
spoke about this extensively.
I'm interested in starting a podcast. I certainly am. I see that as a way forward.
I think based on this discussion, if anyone listening wants Money Mum or Rahman to start
Uncle
a podcast,
Rahman, how
Uncle
about
Rahman to start a podcast,
yes, your votes, please.
then do let us know in the comments of the YouTube video
please
here.
comment. I'd be very interested, honestly, genuinely interested.
And also on your Instagram, which is at
my Instagram is just Hello Rehman. It's
Hello
one
Rehman.
word, HELLOREHMAN.
Hello Rahman. And because I think that what would be really effective is if you were to have a podcast where you were doing essentially like life coaching, but more like career life coaching, and help people to get to be basically what you do at your job, but for the general public and for young people especially, because I think a lot of young people don't have that. And also I think a lot of young people in the Asian culture as well perhaps feel like they can't speak to their parents about things like that, or they don't feel comfortable. And to have an older a person or in the generation above us who has maybe been there, done that, and been at the lowest of lows and the highest of highs in terms of finances, in terms of like dealing with the death of a partner.
I've seen it, been there, done it, and somehow got through it.
Right.
And while I know that there's never really a specific hard-coded rule book in life, I mean, people make it in so many different ways. What I could share with people is how I handled it, things that I did and the thinking I used. And perhaps there's something in there that could gel with someone and think, well, hang on, I'm going through a similar situation here. I'm stacking shelves in a supermarket and hating it. And but I have got a degree and I'm thinking, oh, how could I make that jump? But, if people can find any kind of similarity in their lives and mine, I think I could possibly help.
I think that would also that would help you in managing the messages that you get, because you can't sit there and reply to every message.
No,
but for you to be able to take the messages that you get and to be able to generalize and put some topics down,
Sure.
and then say, okay, so you do, well, let's say for example you were to do an episode a week, you're like, okay, fine, the last week these are the kind of messages I've been getting or this person said this, so your advice based on that, I think it'd be very, very beneficial.
I'd love to know if there's a requirement out there, and it is something that I would like to work on this year. And now look, I'm just a few years away from retirement now from my job. Alhamdulillah, although mentally I haven't really moved from my 30s. I believe I've got about another 5 years before I'm going to retire, because our company has a retirement age of 60. And what I'd like to do is, perhaps as I move towards that area, just devote a little bit more time to this aspect of life. Try to help pay it forward, if you like. I've been very, very blessed, alhamdulillah, in my life, and I've got to a level that I could not dream of. Just in my 30s, I couldn't dream of being in the position I am right now. So I'd like to feel that one way that I can pay it forward is to help others, give them a helping hand up as well. And I know that's not a big thing in our culture, is it? You tend to see someone who's successful, think, oh, how can I bring him down? Or people don't tend to like to share. I don't want to generalize, but I see this.
But it's true.
I see this in my culture. And I want to, again, as I've done throughout my entire life, I want to go against the trend. So again, and I the last podcast I did with Omar, I was really pleasantly surprised by the amount of people that reached out to me, honestly.
Well, you've never done a Freshly Grounded. This is your first.
I haven't.
So we'll see.
Freshly Grounded.
Well, let's see the response that you get from that.
Feedback, and by all means, send me a message. I will try to answer as many as I can, either on this podcast or on my Instagram. And please, I would love to hear from people and see if there is a requirement out there, if there's a demand for this kind of service. I'd love to share with you how I've got where I've got and what things helped me, what things didn't, and I can give you advice. Inshallah.
I think that the when someone is successful and acknowledges their success, there's a level of arrogance that comes with it, and it's very hard to get a balance of saying oh so people are rejecting it, oh no, I'm not successful. But sometimes well, the facts are that you are, and so it's very hard to get a balance where you acknowledge that you acknowledge the successes that you've reached without being arrogant about it, and you seem to have that exact balance. I don't know how you got it.
Because it's from the realization of only one fact, right? Actually, no, call it two facts. I'm no different from anyone out there who's working for their family and who has gone through struggles and is doing their best for their family. So there could be someone listening right now who's a bus driver, who is a doctor, a dentist, whatever job you do. I'm no different from that person. Everyone does their best for their family, okay? So that's all I've ever done. I've tried to be the best version of me, and even now I'm trying to be a better version of me every single minute. Every day I ask myself, what did I do today that made me a better person, okay? Whether that's in my ikhlaq and how I deal with people in Islam, that's a very, very big concept. And also, so I can talk to a janitor in my company and I will talk with respect, and I will respect what he's doing, and I talk with ikhlaq because I'm not better than him. I just got more chances in life. I got a better education. I was able to get a better job. But he and I are both effectively doing the same job. We're working hard for our families. And the second thing that I realized in life was that if Allah has given me this success, He can take it away tomorrow. And I can be the janitor and that guy could be above me. So it's
happened loads of times in life.
Of course it has. And you mustn't have arrogance. Arrogance is, again, something which is not necessary. It's just, I know that the first thing a lot of people do when they make a bit of money is they go out and they buy that huge car and they want to show it. And I'm not interested in show, honestly. I'd rather have great relationships. I would rather have children that love me. I would rather have nephews like you who look up and respect me, and that means much, much more.
And don't call you an idiot.
Don't call me idiot. I almost thought he called me an idiot earlier on today. I misheard.
Yeah. I would have been surprised at myself.
No. My relationships mean a lot more to me than anything else. And look, I don't get me wrong. I aspire to having a Bentley one day, inshallah. It's my dream car. But do I base my entire life on whether I get that or not? Do I judge myself on my success in that? No. I judge my success in my life on my relationships. What will people say about me when I'm dead? That's the true test of a man. That's really how I feel.
Money Mamu, it's
Gosh.
been amazing. I part of me wants to say this podcast could go on for so much longer, and part of me wants to say, oh, I wish it could, but it can. But the other part of me, selfishly, wants to have a consultation with you, and that's why I'm going to cut the episode short. So you obviously live in Saudi. You do pop to the UK every now and again. Obviously, you have family here. And
I'm off to Birmingham tonight.
Yeah, you're off to Birmingham. So you're not. So it's very rare that I can get some alone, like a one-on-one time with you. So I do want to utilize it by going through getting some mentoring myself, because I know that the next time that
That's so selfish.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself in front of all your listeners.
I'm sorry, guys. I think it's been amazing. It's been very informative though, because the like having.
We're good for time.
And having people, we are actually very good for time.
We're
actually.
okay. We're saying 3:30. Yeah.
But I know that if we open another can of worms, that I'd want to go into properly. You know, obviously there's a lot of like public speaking and stand-up comedy and stuff that you've done, and there's so many aspects we can go into. But what I wanted to mention is that I love having like relaxed, sit down conversations with people, and especially ones that are very light-hearted. But I really did want to get this specific conversation out of the way, because everyone has to have money to survive, right?
Sure.
But I think that people's relationships with money, some people's relationships with money are really
unhealthy.
That's the
wrong.
word, yeah, and
Absolutely.
poisonous.
Yes.
And the one thing I struggle with, I think the reason I'm so passionate about it is because there was a time in my life where I had no money, but I had so much arrogance that you would never catch me in a little. You know what I mean? Like, and it took for somebody to say to me like, "What's wrong with that?" And for me to be like, "Hold on a second, what is wrong with that?" Like,
Exactly.
what? But for some reason, I was just like, I had this mentality that like, you can't see me here, you can't catch me here, and then when I unlocked that and overcame it, and then had no problem going to Primark to pick up a jumper or whatever, I felt a level of happiness that I had never felt before, and it was because I felt like, hold on a second. No one does care. Like no one has said to me, "Oh my gosh, you shop at Primark," or whatever. Right? My point is that my relationship with money was very unhealthy, and I didn't have much of it either to be unhealthy with it. And so I'm so passionate about this idea of removing ego.
The thing that we had was that we did not link our happiness with money. Okay. And I remember specifically because my wife and I were all about making happy memories. In fact, the speech that I made for my wife, which is available on YouTube to watch, is a 8-minute speech that I did in Tehran, Saudi Arabia, soon after she passed away actually, was called Make Happy Memories, in which I advised young couples based on our marriage, what the real kind of secret of our happiness was. That our marriage was not about possessions and money or financial status. It was about making happy memories. And so, for example, at the beginning when we didn't have much money, we used to go out to watch a good comedy show, and I found a theatre which on a Tuesday night was free, comedy club, which was free for students and nurses and all that kind of stuff. I can't remember where it was now, but it was in Hammersmith somewhere. And we used to, on a Tuesday night, we used to regularly go up there and grab a bag of chips there and just enjoy ourselves for practically nothing, and we'd come back happy. So again, you see, happiness wasn't linked to me taking her to the Ritz Hotel or some fancy restaurant and buying her diamonds. That's not what Shafi was about, not what I was about. But you can be happy without money. And I think that concept doesn't seem to really gel well in today's materialistic world. And I have to have the latest phone, I have to have the latest Apple Mac or, technology. I think breaking that link opens this door to a different kind of happiness. And I think you found this, right?
Yeah, just conquering that like.
Happiness can be about going for a walk with your wife in a park, which costs how much?
0.
Thank you. But it's pure joy if you have a wife you love and respect, and she loves and respects you back, and you go for that walk. I'm telling you, you come back feeling 10 feet tall, right? That's happiness. Absolutely, happiness. And happiness can be just seeing something beautiful, a beautiful sunset. So people, you have to be very careful about how you define happiness. And our happiness was never. Often we tell our children, right? They said, "Oh my God, when you were doing all this stuff and when you were doing this job, you must have been so unhappy." And Shafi and I both used to look at each other and then look at the kids and say, "No, we were really happy." because we had a stable marriage, we had just a great life, and we were struggling, yes. But did we get depressed about it? No. So if anyone out there is getting depressed about the situation, what you've got to do is put it all in perspective. What are you depressed about? Look at the things you have. So often people say that when you get up in the morning, try to make a list of things that you're very happy about. And I made my kids do this recently when we were in Bahrain recently. We made a whole list of things that we can say Alhamdulillah for. So that you don't focus on what you've lost. So I've just lost my wife and my partner and my best friend of 28 years. If I focus just on the loss, I'll go crazy. This is the most devastating thing that possibly could have ever happened to me, and it was unexpected. I choose to focus on the 28 amazing years we had together and the happy memories we made. I choose to focus on that because I have our children to look after, and I had a future to make for them. And Shafi and I had dreams and ambitions and hopes that I still am delivering. So I liken it in my speech. I say that it's like I'm the pilot of an aircraft who's just lost his co-pilot, but I still have passengers to get down on the ground.
Wow.
I can't afford to let go of the controls.
Yeah.
I still have to have the presence of mind to fly this plane and get us to that destination. And that's really the mission I'm on right now. And that mission depends on me being positive, engaged, and aligned to our vision and strategy and our goals as a family. And I tell my kids just two things. You base your relationships on love and respect. Our family is based on love and respect. You can have as many arguments as you like. It doesn't matter. Husbands and wives argue, brothers and sisters argue, fathers and sons argue. It's all right. It's cool to argue because it's a way of communicating, but always end on love and respect. Those are the basic thoughts that I think that I would like to leave your listeners with and viewers with. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this time with you.
It's been a pleasure having you on here, and I'm sure that the listeners will agree. Thank you so much. And this is what Fresh Ground really is about, man. Like having people on, having these deep conversations, and being able to see inside the mind of people, and having meaningful conversation and something that you can take things away from and learn from. So I really do thank you, man. You don't know how much of an impact this has had on the podcast.
My
and
pleasure.
on me
My
as well.
pleasure.
So guys, if you do want to share your gratitude to Uncle Rehman, you can by going to his Instagram, which is Hello Rehman. That's HELLOREHMAN, and also comment below. And so this was Freshly Grounded, and we are officially out.